Welcome to Christian Truth and God's Medicine. This is our addiction, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and schizophrenia part 2. In our first part, of course, I forgot a few things. I know those of you who have watched my other videos know I'm new to this and I'm still forgetting a few things. So there's just a couple things I wanted to add to that video. And just a recap of the first part of the video, we went over mineral deficiencies and accumulations. We went over heavy metals, chemical toxins, other nutritional deficiencies, lactose and enzymes. We also went over the endocrine system deficiencies and tumors. We went over hormones in relation to these problems. We also talked about the gut and about good bacteria. But one of the areas that I didn't hit on quite enough is the area of parasites, and particularly in this discussion because there's one in particular that has been indicated heavily in schizophrenia. So in our basics, we've also talked about bugs, which I throw many things into that category. When I talk about bugs, I'm talking about parasites, fungus, bacteria, viruses, mycoplasmas, toxoplasmas, all of it. But we went over in the basics a little bit, and we will be covering these things more in depth later. But we talked about, various viruses that have been recently discovered. There's several reports here. This one's out of Prevention Magazine. You can see April 8th, 2015. And it's about a virus that causes obesity. Here we have another report from WebMD about that same virus. And then we also have the stupidity virus. This one reported on by ABC News, the stupidity virus. It's also reported in Newsweek about the stupidity virus. So we have a fat virus, we have a stupidity virus, and when we're speaking on the subject of schizophrenia or dangerous behavioral type problems, there's another one in particular that we might be talking about. Just quickly, we did mention that your solution to these parasites is going to be doing a parasite cleanse and cleaning out the body, and we'll talk more about that later. But I wanted to get to this one in particular that has to do with schizophrenia. Dr. Patrick House, a neurologist, has isolated and been studying a parasite that is involved in schizophrenia. This parasite is called Toxoplasma gondii and is of particular interest for, like I said, these kind of conditions. I just want to share with you a few minutes of this video.
There is another creature that has a far more sinister way of reaching its next victim, and it's something that we should be truly terrified of. Have a look at this. A rat chasing a cat. Just look at that. Go on. Get him. This behaviour defies all the rules of nature. And it's not a one-off case. But this is not a new species of uber-aggressive fighting rodent. These rats weren't born with a death wish. No, scientists think that this bizarre behaviour might be brought about from a run-in with something altogether stranger. It's quite possible that these rodents aren't acting in their right minds. They've been Hijacked. Hijacked by a parasite. Toxoplasma gondii, a tiny, single-celled organism that lives in the rodent's brain. Here, it meddles with the neurons to render the rat completely fearless. But why? What possible benefit could it be to the parasite to give the rat a death wish? Well, here's the really weird thing. This parasite doesn't actually like rats very much. They are purely a means to an end. You see, the ultimate aim for Toxoplasma is to get into a cat.
What's unique about this parasite is that it can only sexually reproduce inside the gut of a cat. What it needs to do, its life cycle, its evolutionary pressure, its need, is to get from one cat to another cat. And the question is, how does a tiny parasite with no legs, no means of moving on its own, how does it get all the way from one cat to another cat?
Mind control. Toxoplasma makes rats its rodent slaves. Here's how it works. Toxoplasma's offspring exit the cat in its feces. The rat or mouse then eats those feces. Once embedded in the rodent's brain, the parasite does its thing, significantly lowering the rat's inhibitions, making it less cautious and more likely to get eaten. Et voila! The life cycle is complete. Toxoplasma is a very focused little organism, going to extraordinary lengths to make sure that this cycle is fulfilled. The parasite doesn't only make rats less afraid of cats, it does something much weirder.
We find that in the brains of these animals that are infected with the parasite, it looks a little bit like these animals are actually sexually attracted to the smell of the cat urine.
Infected rodents, aroused by the aroma, are enticed into feline hangouts, and then eaten.
The cats are kind of like love hotels for the parasite, and the rats and the mice are like taxis that take them in between each individual love hotel.
Quite a thought. And that's not the end of it. The Toxoplasma's tail is about to get even darker. Because, and I hate to tell you this, the parasite can infect us too. Here's the real shocker. Research suggests that this parasite could be lying dormant in the brains of 1/3 of us. It's truly terrifying. Of course, Toxoplasma doesn't want to be inside us. We're a dead end. It lives trapped inside our brains. And what it might be doing in there is, of course, serious cause for concern.
The big neurobiological question that we want to answer is, if it's changing the behavior of rats and mice, what is it doing to people?
Well, toxoplasmosis won't have us sniffing out cat urine, but studies show that it might be having some very serious and very disturbing effects on our mental health.
Around the world, studies have shown that people with schizophrenia have higher rates of this parasite.
Toxoplasmosis is able to alter the way the rat's brain functions.
When this parasite gets into people, maybe it's doing the same thing. Maybe you can have chronic effects on something like mental illness.
If Patrick can find a link between the parasite and our behaviour, then it would change the way we look at mental illness, and of course, potentially help find a treatment. And just before you lock the cat flap for good, let me reassure you. you're most likely to get toxoplasmosis through eating raw meat. Fertilizers can contain a fair bit of cat feces. So when the parasite gets into the crops, it gets into the cows, and then it gets into us. Cook your food well, keep your hands washed, and then you can cuddle your cat free of fear.
So that was a program called World's Weirdest, put out on BBC One channel. And I want to put a shout out to Solemn Corsa for making this clip available online on their channel. Thank you so much. But again, you know, to emphasize, he says in this piece that we can get this parasite from handling raw beef or fertilizer or eating raw beef. So I wanted to bring that one up in particular in relation to schizophrenia. Again, I apologize for leaving this out of my first video. I do these videos really without any script. Sometimes I have some notes. But like I said, I'm new to the videos and I'm sure I'll get better. I want to thank you, those of you who are sticking in there with me through my forgetfulness and my bad video skills. But I am trying to bring you all the data and trying to also at the same time keep the videos as short as I can. But I think that's about it for the addendum that I wanted to give you on this addiction, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and schizophrenia. I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll join us in our upcoming videos on this God's Medicine educational series. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And any questions, leave them in the comments below, so we'll be sure to get back with you.